Hey y'all, welcome to Andrea Speaks TV. I am your host, Andrea, and I'm bringing you commentary you can use. So, this is episode 13, y'all, and I have some major news regarding the fight for reparations for Black Americans. So, my question, my topic for this video is: Are reparations on the way for Black Americans? So, before we get into it, y'all, please make sure you hit the thumbs up button, share this video, and subscribe to my channel, Andrea Speaks TV. Okay. All right, y'all. So we're going to go ahead and get into it. Again, the topic is: Are reparations on the way for Black Americans? Now, I was reading this article. This article comes from the New York Times, and it gives some very detailed information on some developments that were just announced on yesterday. All right. So the article is titled House Panel Advances Bill to Study Reparations in Historic Vote. Okay. All right. So I'm not gonna read the entire article, but I do want to go over several of the paragraphs, the information in the article that I feel like is very beneficial to you. Okay. All right. So the article reads: A House committee voted on Wednesday to recommend for the first time the creation. Wait a minute, y'all. Let me go back and read that again. I don't think some of y'all heard me. A House committee voted on Wednesday to recommend for the first time, okay, for the first time, the creation of a commission to consider providing Black Americans with reparations for slavery in the United States and and this is in quotation marks, a national apology for centuries of discrimination. All right, the vote by the House Judiciary Committee was a major milestone. This, according to the article, was a major milestone for proponents of reparations who have labored for decades to build mainstream support for redressing the lingering effects of slavery. All right. Please make sure you hit the thumbs up button, share this video, and also make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Okay. All right. The article goes on to say that Democrats on the panel advanced the legislation establishing the commission over Republican objections 25-17. Now, the bill, which is labeled H.R. 40, after the unfulfilled Civil War era promise to give former slaves 40 acres and a mule, still faces steep odds of becoming law. Now, with opposition from some Democrats and unified Republicans who argue that Black Americans do not need a government handout for long ago crimes, neither chamber of Congress has committed to a floor vote. Okay, now hold that thought, because after I go over the information in the article, I'm going to give some information to those who may be in opposition of providing Black Americans, Black American descendants of slaves, with reparations. Okay, I'm going to give those opponents some information based on facts to consider. Okay, now the article goes on to say the renewed interest in reparations comes as President Biden has positioned addressing racial inequalities at the center of his domestic policy agenda, proposing billions of dollars in investments in Black farmers, business owners, neighborhoods, students, and the poor. All right. Let's see. All right. The article continues to say that Black representatives in Congress began rekindling the issue 3 decades ago, so 30 years ago, when they first proposed a commission to explore it. Now, the bill before the Judiciary Committee on Wednesday would establish a body to study the effects of slavery and the decades of economic and social discrimination that followed, often with government involvement, and propose possible ways to address the yawning gap in wealth and opportunity between Black and white Americans, It would also consider, again, in quotation marks, a national apology for the harm caused by slavery. Proponents of reparations from the federal government differ on what form precisely they should take. Now, some favor direct cash payments of varying sizes. Others favor no interest loans for prospective Black homeowners, and some favor free college tuition. Now, um, in Evanston, Illinois, which is a suburb of Chicago, it was recently announced in the news that they pledged $10 million this year in reparations in the form of housing grants to Black residents who can prove they or their ancestors were victims of redlining or other housing discrimination. Okay, now there has been some criticism of the way that they're handling their specific plan in Evanston, Illinois. I'm not too sure right now of the specifics, but I do know, based on my research, that there had been some criticism, and I think it's specifically the criticism was surrounding having to prove, if I'm not mistaken, having to prove whether or not they or their ancestors were victims of redlining or other housing discrimination. So either way, and I'm going to discuss this more, but it just has to be done right. So I support reparations for Black Americans who are descendants of slaves, but it has to be done right. Okay. All right. Let me share a little bit more from the article, and now I'll give some more thoughts. Now, the White House press secretary said, we understand that we don't need a study to take action right now on systemic racism. The White House press secretary said this back in February. So he wants to take actions. I'm assuming this was referring to President Joe Biden. So he wants to take actions within his own government in the meantime. Okay. Now, going back to those who are opponents or those who oppose reparations, the article does share that opponents argue that the wrongs of slavery, this is in the article, opponents argue that the wrongs of slavery are simply too far past and too diffuse to be practically addressed now. Okay, the article also says that the opponents question why taxpayers, many of whom came to the United States long after slavery ended, should foot a potentially large bill for payments to Black Americans and whether such payments would be a benefit at all. Okay. Now, as I just said previously, I support reparations for Black Americans who are descendants of slaves, but I want it to be done right. Now, you may ask, okay, so if you want it done right, what does that look like? What does that mean? So, to further explain and to give you some insight, some knowledge, I want to refer to a gentleman by the name of Dr. Claud Anderson. Now, Dr. Claud Anderson, if you're not familiar with him, I do encourage you to Google him. I'm also going to give you a website, but Dr. Claud Anderson is the author of the book Powernomics. That is one of his books. Dr. Anderson has also held high-ranking offices in federal government under President Jimmy Carter's administration. So I want to read to you Dr. Anderson's thoughts on the burdens of inequalities. Now, this is coming from the book Powernomics. If you have a copy of his book Powernomics, I'll be reading from pages 6 and 7. If you don't have Dr. Anderson's book, Powernomics, I have on the screen, you can purchase Dr. Claud Anderson's book, Powernomics, at www.powernomics.com. I also put a link in the description of the video. All you have to do is click the link. It will take you to his website. You can see all of his books. He also has videos. He has different like packs. You can buy different packs of his books. All of his information is on the site. So I do encourage you all to go to powernomics.com and check it out. But I do want to read. I'm going to open my copy of Powernomics, and I'm going to go to page 6. And in page 6, This is chapter 1, and he talks about the burdens of inequality. So I want to give those who may not be familiar with reparations, or may not be knowledgeable, or may not have any insight on um, the burdens of inequality, or why there is such a push or a fight for reparations. So again, I'm going to quote, this is on page 6 under the heading, The Burdens of Inequality. And this is what Dr. Claude Anderson has to say. Okay, so these are his words. Now, let's see. He says, racism and other legacies of slavery predetermined the success of Black Americans as a group. He goes on to say, one of the most glaring examples of inherited inequalities is wealth distribution. Black America's percentage of ownership of the nation's wealth remains where it was in the 1860s on the eve of the Civil War. All right. At the time, Dr. Claud Anderson shares, when nearly every Black person in America was either in full slavery or semi slavery, Blacks owned 1/2 of 1% of the nation's wealth. Okay. Let me read that sentence again, y'all. Let that resonate for just a minute. All right. At that time, when nearly every Black person in America was either in full slavery or semi slavery, Blacks owned 1/2 of 1% of this nation's wealth. The emancipation of enslaved Blacks in no sense rendered social justice and economic recompense. Okay. All right, let's see. Now, Dr. Claude Anderson, I'm going to skip down. He also goes on to say that Blacks even find that our homes, usually our most valuable assets, have a limited market, and prices are dictated by urban renewal, expressways, or gentrification. The average Black person passes on zero assets to future generations. Now, he also says, and this is on page 7, the ancestors of enslaved Blacks were forced to concentrate simply on surviving, pursuing civil rights, and integration. They had little to bequeath to their descendants. Even though they succeeded in their social and civil rights efforts, their children cannot inherit welfare, food stamps, public housing, or and this is in quotation marks, a good job. Okay. So these are some powerful words from Dr. Claud Anderson in his book, Powernomics. I was reading from pages 6 and 7, and you can purchase a copy of Dr. Claud Anderson's book, Powernomics, at powernomics.com. Also, I put a link in the description of the video. Okay. Dr. Claud Anderson also, he talks about several different topics in his book. And as he mentions what he calls the 3 major impediments to Black competitiveness, the first one that he lists is the maldistribution of wealth and resource powers. Okay. And so that simply, is pretty much the foundation of the fight and the call for reparations for Black Americans. We were promised certain things, and this is a documented fact: 40 acres and a mule. And, we want America to do right on its promise, in whatever shape or form that is for 2021. We want it done right. And I believe, based on Dr. Claude Anderson's experience in the highest level of government at the federal level under President Jimmy Carter's administration, along with his extensive research and his knowledge, he wrote Powernomics. The subtitle is The National Plan to Empower Black America. So because of all of his knowledge and his experience, his expertise, I believe that Dr. Claude Anderson should be involved in the plan for reparations for Black Americans who were descendants of slaves. So I definitely feel like President Biden, the House committee, they should be listening to, and they should take into consideration what Dr. Claude Anderson has said in his book Powernomics and other books that he has written. They mentioned that they want to create a panel to consider reparations and to do studies where I definitely feel that Dr. Claude Anderson should be a part of that panel, if not over it. So that's what I wanted to share with you all. Again, this is a start, and many would say that it is long overdue, and we just want it done the right way. So again, I wanted to come to you all and bring some information regarding this recent bill to study reparations. This is a historic vote, and as I shared, many would say that it's long overdue. So again, make sure you hit the thumbs up button, share this video. I feel like many people of all ages need to hear this information and know what's going on. Make sure you subscribe to the channel right here, Andrea Speaks TV. Also, you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Andrea Speaks TV. Again, I'm on Instagram as well as Facebook. You can follow me at Andrea Speaks TV. All right. Thank you all so much. I appreciate your support of the channel. Please make sure you hit the thumbs up button. When you do that, it helps my channel grow and more people will be able to see this video. So thank you all so much. Take care and be blessed.